What's good? What's good? Shalom, shalom. What's good? What's good? Right? I know y'all see the title. Yeah, we're gonna pick up where we left off at. Getting into this whole backdrop of this World War III stuff. That's we currently at the break of, right? Um, and we know like on the news and stuff they have something like a ceasefire or something like that, right? Or what I'm saying, or not really a ceasefire, but a pause in some of the action and all that. But we can't get fooled, by that because we know stuff is still happening. You know, so I mean, it's a lot of stuff going on. It's a lot of stuff throughout the news that's happening around the world. That's is building up to be the catalyst for this World War III thing, right? We got to be keep our eyes open, when stuff go down. So and also put in the mark of the beast, in the title, so we're gonna go over that also, and get a little understanding of what that is and what's going on with that, right? So yeah, of course, all praises to the Most High. We do so in His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, right? So we're gonna start it off with that first and foremost, right? So so yeah, we just gonna just go through the spirit and just go through the the intricacies of this whole thing. Because I mean, believe it or not, we at the end of this whole thing, right? And because like I said, there's just a few more prophecies that have to come to pass, right? You know, along with World War III, and we see that a lot of these different countries is gearing up for war, and they actually are at war. Um, so it's like once America actually put troops on the ground, or any other UN country put troops on the ground, is on and popping because they got that Article 7 thing going on. If one fight, we all fight. So I mean, so then we have the of course, in the system of the beast, we have them split. You know, I believe it was I think it was Spain recently, or Germany. One of them, Spain or one, I believe it's Spain or something. That came out recently and said that they support Hamas or support the Palestinians, and they supposed to be NATO, right? So when we be reading those different prophecies in Daniel about how the uh, this system, this beast system, this final empire is going to be split, politically. We see those things happening. We see that all these different NATO countries, they're not all on the same page, right? They have different ways of doing things. So we can see the split that's going on with them. So yeah, so like when you know looking at what's going on in the world, and like I said, you couple that with the Bible prophecies, we can see how this thing is playing out, right? So we're gonna uh we're gonna start with the we're gonna get into Revelation real quick. Talk about this mark, right? Because like I said, that's one of the things that's is on the to do list, right? Because you have something called an RFID chip, right? That's coming out. I mean that is already out, but it's not mandatory yet, right? And I don't know if y'all was paying attention to the news. Elon Musk, got the Neuralink thing, which is same thing, right? Putting a chip in your brain. Like how it tell you Revelation is going to be either in your hand or in your forehead. And what's in your forehead? Your brain, right? So now, when Elon Musk first, was designing this thing, he only really wanted 11 test subjects. So when he got ready to, when he got ready to start his testing and all that stuff, it said like 2,000 people showed up, for the Neuralink thing, right? So we gotta understand, like, that this whole the system of the beast, this market of beast is on its way, and it already been FDA approved, right? And so yeah, it's a lot of stuff going on, and so yeah, we're gonna get right into it though. Let's start off with boom 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 boom. Let's go to Revelation 13 real quick. Let's start at let's start from the top. Let's just run to the top real quick, right? So so this is a Revelation uh 13 and 1, right? We're gonna start at 1. And it says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads, 10 horns, and upon his head, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. Right. So this is talking about America and their EU and a NATO partnership that they got going on. Right. Because this is talking about because America is that revised Roman Empire. Right. Hold on 1 second. So now let's get Daniel 7 and 19 real quick, and it says, "This is Daniel 7 and 19, and I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all other exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were like iron, and his nails of brass, which devour and break in pieces, and stamp the residue with his feet." So this is talking about the Roman Empire. So America is that second beast that came up out of the Roman Empire, right? So let's get back over here to 13. So it says, and the beast which I saw was likened unto a leopard, and his feet were as a feet of a bear, and his mouth was as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat in a great authority, right? So it's basically saying Satan, what I'm saying? That's who they pledge their allegiance to. Satan, that's what that great dragon is, right? The devil. Right? So then it says, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and the deadly wound was healed, and all of the world wondered after the beast. So this is talking about America, Britain, Spain, when they formulated this whole NATO thing, this EU thing, chiefly after World War II, right? So it says, because, I mean, then, and, more so America, because America is spearheading this whole union. So, and for a long time, people, were admiring America, looking at America as this great, wonderful country, right? And so, so it says, and they worship and they wonder after the beast, right? Because a lot of these, we was talking about this last time, like how all these countries want to be a part of America. They all want to take part in the American dream, so to speak, right? So it says, and they worship the dragon, which gave the power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" Right? And that's the thing. When America became to their, became mighty, you know, no country wanted to smoke with America, right? Especially when they dropped the atomic bomb on Japan and all that. Because at the time, America is the only country that had nuclear weapons. So nobody, they said, so that's why they was like, what it says, who's able to make war with him, right? So that's why a lot of these countries was able to get bullied by America because they didn't have that military might. And now that America linked up with NATO, you know, and the EU, and they passing out nuclear weapons to all these different countries, arming them. So it's like their strength. So that's why when you read in Daniel 2 and 9, I said 2:09. Daniel uh 2:41, and it talks about how the feet is part clay and part iron, and we already understood the iron to be their military, right? And the clay being a politics, meaning they don't see eye to eye on a lot of their policies that they want to do, you know. So so a lot of countries they want to took notice when America did what they did in World War II, right? And America became a great country, a great nation, right? A fearful nation, militarily, right? Then it says, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemy, and the power was given unto him to continue 40 and 42 months, right? So, like I said, so that America speak blasphemy, speak great things, talking about how they the greatest country, but they also the wickedest. They're hypocrites, saying they go around uh, convincing this world of this whole democracy thing, like this whole freedom to the people thing, when they actually corrupt and they go around toppling governments all over the world that don't want to get down or how they want to get down, or establishing all these puppet governments, right? So hold on real quick. And it says, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, and blasphemy and blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven, right? So, like I said, that's what they do with their false religion, philosophies, their just their philosophies, period. And then like I said, their teachings, what they propagate here, right? That's blasphemy, right? And let's get Revelation. We can get all these precepts really quick. Let's get hold on, boom, boom, boom. Let's get Revelation. Revelation 2:9 real quick, right? Then it says, I know thy works and tribulations and poverty, but thou art rich. Talking about the Israelites. You know what I'm saying? The stuff that we go through, our poverty, our struggles that we go through, throughout this world. And it says, and I know the blasphemy, meaning that filthy, dirty lie of them that say they are Jews, but are not, but are the synagogues of Satan, right? So that's who these people are, the synagogues of Satan that goes around claiming themselves to be Jews, but they are not, right? And and we know who the wicked is, that who these people are in the wicked, right? Let's get our dear brother Job really quick. Job 9:24, right? So, and it tells you, and it says, the earth is given unto the hands of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof, right? So the Bible's telling you that the earth have been given over to the hands of the wicked, right? And we know who the wicked is. The wicked is these people that run the earth. And we know who runs the earth, you know, the ones that got the complexion for the protection, right? So it says the earth had been given over to the hands of the wicked. It says they cover the faces of the judges. Who are the judges? The judges are the Israelites. Who is the chief judge? The chief judge is Yahweh Shai, who the world calls Jesus Christ. They cover their faces. And how do they cover their faces? By whitewashing, by showing you images of a white Jesus, a white Moses, a white, angels and all this stuff, right? That's how they cover the faces of the judges, right? Then it says, he covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Meaning, if these people are not the wicked, who else is going around the earth doing these things, right? Who else is running the earth, right? These people are running the earth, right? You know, back when I was growing up, they had a saying that was just a white man's world. We just live in it, right? So even with our lack of understanding back then, we knew that this place was being ran by them. Policies and laws is made by them, right? So back over here. Hold on, let's get this one too though. We could get 11, Revelation 11:11. So it says after 3 days and a half. So this is a spiritual understanding. So these 3 days is um, talking about years, right? So after 3 days and a half, so 350 so years and a half, the spirit of life of God entered into them, and they stood on their feet. So it's talking about the Israelites. It's talking about us waking up, coming back to our culture, our nationality, our understanding of who our God is, and keeping the law, statutes, and commandments like we were commanded to do. So it says the spirit of God come back into them, like we read about in Ezekiel 37 about the dry bones. The spirit of God coming right back into us. It says, the spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood on their feet, and in great fear felt upon them that saw them. So that's what's going to happen. You know, as we coming back to our rightful understanding, keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, fear is going to fall upon these nations. That's why they try to, you know, propagate all these different slanderous things about us and portray us a certain type of way, demonize us, and all that stuff, right? You know, because they trying to stop the movement before it get going, right? That's why what's that guy name? J. Edgar Hoover. You know, he had something, the COINTELPRO thing, when it was trying to stop what they call the next Black Messiah. So they know what's going on, because once we actually stand on our feet and be unified, you know what I'm saying, great fear will fall upon them, like it tells you, right? So that's why it says too. It says it was given power unto him to continue for 42 months and a half, right? So, like I said, so that's like I said, as we waking up, this empire is going to crumble. You know what I'm saying? Us becoming awakened, how we always like to say woke and all that stuff. Us becoming awakened and woke to what's really going on equals the downfall of this society and this empire, and then us becoming mighty, right? Because what we got to understand is it's just like just simple math. This is like adding and subtracting, right? You know, so when they go up, we go down. Then when we go up, they go down, right? And we know this through history, because even after slavery, you know what I'm saying? Like when we was let off those plantations, you saw what type of strides we were making. You saw what type of neighborhoods we were building. You know what type of cities we were building. We had Black Wall Street. You know what I'm saying? When they was going through the Great Depression, for the most part, our people was cool. You know, for the in different areas that we was living in. So that shows you, when we go up, they go down. When they go up, we go down. And the Bible tells you that too. And so when Deuteronomy 28 in the 28th chapter, right? So moving on. So it says, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints. And who is the saints? The saints are the Israelites. And to overcome them, and the power was given to him over all the kindreds and tongues of the nations. Right? So that's what happened when they took over. Like I said, they end up running this whole thing. And now they can go way over across the seas telling another country what they can do and what they can't do, right? So, and that's what happened. You know what I'm saying? Because people fell into fear of them, right? Let's get Zechariah 13 and 8. Well, no, we'll hold that one. But so let's get bear with me, bear with me. So let's move on though. So it says, and And the dwell upon the earth shall and all that dwell upon earth shall worship him, and whose names were not written in the book of life of the Lamb was slain from the foundations of earth. So a lot of these countries worship America. They want to be like America. You know, they want to patent themselves as America. A lot of these countries that had their own traditions and cultures want to, propagate sending their people over here so they can live the American dream. You know, get cash in over here on America, get rich. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it means by you know, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, and whose name were not written in the book of life and of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So there was like I said, so America becoming that great city. You know what I'm saying? We know the history. We see how people speak about America. Everybody wants to be American. You know, maybe not so much now because like the Bible says that man of sin will be revealed. So a lot of these nations is coming to think like, man, all the hell we've been going through is their fault. So now a lot of these nations are starting to understand what's going on. That's why I see so much turmoil going on in the world, right? So then it says, if any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. So who led us into captivity? They did, the so-called European Caucasian. It says, "He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity." Right. So we know we're still talking about the same people, right? Because we just got done breaking down how these different beasts, how this beast comes out of the Roman Empire, and we know who the Roman Empire is. So now we're just going through history, you know, and seeing how this matches up with these people. It says, "He that leadeth into captivity should go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword." And here is the patience and the faith of the saints, right? Because the patience of the saints, the real saints, the Israelites, not know what they got over there in the Catholic stuff, um, Mother Teresa and all them other little saints that they propagated. No, the real saints are the Israelites, right? And say we are patiently waiting for that day that the ones that killed us with the sword that they should be killed, right? And God is using them to take them out, their own self out, right? And we read about that in I want to say Jeremiah. Talk about how since they're not, they haven't, they wasn't scared of blood, so he's gonna, and they never, shy away from shedding blood. So then God said He's gonna shed their blood, by having them fight against each other, destroy each other. That's what this whole World War III is all about, right? Like I said, and it's a catalyst to our salvation, right? This is what's gonna make us free, right? Literally. So let's get Isaiah 14:2, and it says, "And the people should take them and bring them to their place." So let's start at 1. "For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob." Right? So that's what's going to happen. These people are going to cleave to the house of Jacob, the Israelites, right? Because they're going to know that in that day that God is with us, right? So, and it says, "And the people shall take them and bring them to their place." So we're going to take them, just like how they took us, we're going to take them and bring them to our place, and the house of Israel should possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and for handmaids. The same way how they brought us over here to serve 400 years of slavery, we're going to take them for servants and for handmaids. And it says, "And they shall take them captive, who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors." Right? So that's what's going to happen in that day. And we're getting close to that time, right? Then it says, and back to Revelation 13 and 11, "Behold, another beast coming up out of the earth and had two horns uh, like a lamb and spoke like a dragon." So it's talking about America, right? So now that fourth beast is was the Roman Empire. So now this is America that comes out of that Roman Empire, right? And those two horns is talking about they two legislation branch. Their the legislation branch, how they have the Democrats and the Republicans, and they have to see eye to eye for things to get done, right? So it says, and he exercised the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth that which dwelt therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. He doeth great wonders that make fire come from the down from the heavens on the earth in the sight of men, right? So now this is where a lot of people get spooked out because they think it's talking about some mystical uh, third dimension type stuff, right? No, this is talking about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Excuse me. When America dropped them bombs on Japan, they made fire come from earth. Like we was reading earlier in the chapter, that's what made these nations worship America because, and it says, who can make war with this beast, right? Because they seen the might and the power of their military when they pushed that button over Japan and did what they did, right? So that's what this fire coming from Earth, from the heavens was, because that airplane flew, and when it flew over, it dropped that bomb, and that was fire falling from heaven, right? So so yeah, it's not anything mystical like because people, because you still got people that believe there's going to be a single antichrist, right? That's going around doing all this stuff when the Bible tells you that there's many antichrists. And how you know antichrist? A person that does not believe in Yahweh Shai, who the world calls Jesus. A person that does not subscribe to Yahweh Shai. That would be a antichrist, right? There's not one single person that's going to come on the scene and do all this stuff. I mean, no, it's not happening like that. The Bible says there are antichrists many, right? Meaning there are just not it's not one antichrist. I don't know how people can read that and still come up with the conclusion that it's only one antichrist. That's crazy, right? And it says, and he do make great wonders, so that he make fire come down from heaven and the earth in the sight of man, and deceive them that dwelt on the earth. By the means of those miracles he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying unto them which dwell on the earth that shall make an image of the beast, which is NATO, the EU, right? Coupling with that their white supremacist ideology, philosophies, the image of the beast, which had which the wound by which was wound by a sword and did live, right? Because now they revised. Now you got America, Britain, Spain, the whole shebang. France. They back together again as NATO, as the EU, right? The revised Roman Empire, spearheaded by America, right? And then when you look at the old Roman Empire and the providence that was connected to them, it's the same regions now that make up NATO and the EU, right? So that's interesting. So then let's get hold on one second. See what this say real quick. Let's get Romans 8:28 real quick. And it says, and we know that all things work together for the good to them that love God, right? So that's what we gotta keep the faith in God and Yahweh. Because I know like World War III, especially when everything kicks off, famine, people are not gonna be able to eat. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna be able to go call up uh, Grubhub or Uber Eats and get you some food. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna somebody breaking into your house. You're not gonna be able to call 911 because 911 is gonna be busy and off the hook that day. Because the police and firefighters, they're gonna be busy trying to protect their family in that day. So it says, and we know that all things work. together for the good to them that love Yahweh, to them who are called according to his purpose. So God is going to protect his people, right? All we have to do is keep our end of the bargain by keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, right? And God is going to protect his people, right? That's how this works. And it says, back to Revelation 13:15. And he had power to give unto the image of the beast, white supremacy, and the image of the beast should both speak um, and cause that as many should not worship the image should be killed. So that Caesar Borgia picture, that white Jesus that they came over to Americas, you know, to the natives and to our people, forcing their religion onto us. And if we didn't bow down to that white Jesus, we were killed, right? So let's get Second Ezra real quick. Second Ezra 15:16. Then it says, "For there should be sedition among men, invading one another." Right. So that's what's going to happen in this day. That's why when we just read in Romans 8 that all things work for the good, you know, for the good for those who love Yahweh, right? So it's telling you that it should be sedition among men and invading one another. So, like I said, when this stuff really get full fledged, people are gonna be breaking into houses for a slice of bread, for eggs. You know what I'm saying? They might start off with people. Your neighbor might knock on your door. Hey, you got some bread I can get? You be like, yeah, sure. You give it to them. Next day they come, got some bread I can get? Yeah, sure. You give it to them. But then it's gonna come a time where they're not knocking on your door no more. They kicking in your door, and trying to take whatever you got, right? So that day is coming. That's why we have to understand what's going on. So when that stuff happens, we won't be fearful. You know what I'm saying? You get ready. Will you be ready? So you won't have to get ready. You know what I'm saying? And you don't be scared. You be prepared, right? That's what we're trying to do here. Because we got the game plan right here. We got the playbook. We know what's happening. We just have to read it and understand it and apply it, right? Because it just told you right here, Romans 8 and 28, it says, "And we know that all things work together for the good of them that love Yahweh, God, to them who are called according to his purpose," right? So, like I said, so when that day breaks out, when it says talk about the seditions of our people, when it says, "For there should be sedition among men, invading one another, and they should not regard their kings nor their princes." Meaning, we're not going to listen to when the president come on the TV and say, "Hey, stay in your house." It's a curfew. Don't come out. Blah blah blah. We ain't none of that going to apply to us. We're going to be straight rebel rousing, as they say. Then, in the course of their actions shall stand in their power, meaning we're going to do what we think we need to do. That's what that means right there. It says, in the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And a man should desire to go into a city and shall not be able. That's talking about martial law. You're going to have troops at the border of these different states talking, wanting to know what you're trying to do, what you're doing here. Sending you back, probably arresting you, right? Arresting you. And it says, for because their pride, the cities shall be troubled, and the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. So that's what's going to happen in that day. But that's why we got to keep the faith and the understanding. Because we're looking at what's going on over there, like, okay, that's over there. But we don't know that it's coming over here as well. So that's why we got to keep the faith and understand what's going on. And it says, "A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their house with the sword and spoil their goods," meaning they're going to break in your house, kick in the door, waving a fofo, right? Then it says, "Because a lack of bread and great tribulations," because people are going to be hungry and they're going to need to eat. And they got to feed their family. And if they know or got an idea or or an unction that you got it, they're gonna go over there and get it from you, right? And it says, "Behold," said God, "I will call together the kings of the earth to revenge me, which are from the rising sun, from the south, from the east to Labanicus, to the to turn themselves one against another." So he's making these people fight against each other, right? And he says, and that's what he called vengeance for him, right? By making them go against each other. Then it says, yeah, okay, and turn themselves one against another and repay the things that they have done to them, right? So God is getting these people back. That's why World War III is a must, because God is going to judge these people. He's making them fight each other, making them destroy themselves, right? As a judgment, because they went around destroying the earth, right? So moving on, right? So it says, and he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or their forehead. Right? What is this mark? This mark is that RFID chip, that microchip that they're gonna eventually try to get everybody to get. Right? Then it says, and that no man might buy or sell, save that he that hath the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name, right? So you're gonna have to have these certain specific things to order to partake in commerce, you know, buying and selling, you know. So you're gonna be able to. Then if you don't have those things, then you're not gonna be able to buy and sell. And you better hope you know somebody that's nice, right? But we know we're not going to take the mark of the beast, right? We're not taking no microchip. That's not what we're going to do, because we got the faith. We understand that God says that his people shall eat, right? That his people shall drink when everybody else is thirsty. We understand that, right? So moving on, then it says, and here is the wisdom. Let him who have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and the number is 600 three scores and six, right? So that's where they get the 666 from, right? So now, like I said, a lot of people want to get all extra deep with the whole 666 thing, talking about the six protons, six neutrons, and since six, whatever, right? No, it has nothing to do with none of that. It's not that deep. All it is 66% of our people is going to take the mark of the beast, right? And the mark of the beast is only uh, based on the people of America. It's not talking about the whole world. I mean, the whole world is going to have their own system of how they do things. Can we see that in different countries? How they got their own variation. But this mark is, particular, uh, particularly about America and their people. And then that 666, that 66%, what it basically is speaking of the God's people that's going to take it. It's not concerned about the rest of the citizens of America, because they're going to do what they do. But it's talking about God's people that's going to take it. And 66% of us is going to take it, right? So let's move on, right? Then, let's get, let's see, boom, boom, boom. All right, let's get, we'll get, we'll jump down, we'll go to chapter 14 and 9, right? We'll start there. It says, "And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast in his image, which received the mark of his, on in his forehead or in his hand, and the same shall drink the wine of wrath of God, which is poured out with without mixture, meaning it's gonna be a straight up drink. You know what I'm saying? No chaser. Into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone. Talking about the nuclear bombs in the presence of the holy angels, in the presence of the Lamb, right? So that's what's gonna happen, right? Because a lot of our people is gonna take this thing, because Russia, China, Iran, all them different nations, they're gonna push the button. Then only way we can actually be saved, because these type of things they got, like I said, they're stronger than Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You know, Russia got something that's 50 times stronger than the stuff that hit Japan, right? So our only true, safety is under, God, the Most High God, Yahweh, and His Son Yahweh Shai, right? That's where our safety, our help is going to come from. Because as a people, like I said, ain't nothing we can do, right? So we got to have the faith. We got to keep the faith. We got to keep the law, statutes, and commandments, and understand that this is our way out, right? Because that's what the Bible says. Then it says, "In the smoke and the torment ascend up forever, and they have no rest day or night who worship the beast in his image, and whosoever received the mark in his name." Right? So, and that's what happens. So anybody that's gonna, fall for it and just like, you know what, fine, I'm gonna get it because I need to get some food. I need to eat. I don't want to starve to death. I gotta work. I don't want to. You know, you're gonna you're gonna be tormented day and night, and that's because when this whole place get leveled with nuclear bombs, this place is gonna become the lake of fire that you can read about in this very book called Revelation. Because when you do understand the geographics of America, um, America has three of the world's biggest underground volcanoes, right? And so when those bombs hit, it's going to cause seismic activity. A lot of those Yellowstone and stuff like that is going to be compromised, and it's going to cause a big eruption. So not only are you getting hit with megatons and on top of megatons of nuclear bombs, then you have the underground volcanoes to worry about that haven't erupted in ages, and they just waiting to explode. Uh, they always be closing Yellowstone every now and then because they be thinking that this thing can explode. Just Yellowstone alone will destroy the country. If just to say like no nuclear bomb hit America ever. If Yellowstone decide to do what it want to do, that one alone will destroy the whole country. Because number one, the volcano takes up about damn near 3 states, right? It's super big. It's underground. And if it blows up, I mean, us here in Illinois is done for. Everybody is done for. You know, like only people that might have a chance is the way far out states, like probably like Florida or Maine or something like that. But but what's the point? The whole rest of the country is just a big old crater. You know what I'm saying? So even if a nuclear bomb doesn't hit, just Yellowstone alone would destroy this place. You can watch any type of documentary about, you know, these the little Yellowstone stuff, and if it erupt, how devastating it would be. And it'll tell you that alone would destroy this place, right? So now you couple that with Russia biggest bomb ever. They got China hypersonic missiles that they got. Then Iran and whatever nuclear capabilities they got. Then along with a few of the NATO members actually turning on America, probably more than just a few, and the bombs that they got. Right. That's why the Bible calls this place the lake of fire. Right. And that's why that it says he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, in the presence of the Lamb, right? And the smoke of their torment shall ascend up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night who worship the beast in his image, and whosoever received the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here is they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus, Yahweh Shai, right? And now, ain't that something? Church will tell you you don't have to keep the laws of God, right? Just have faith in Jesus. But the very last book of the Bible, the book that's called Revelation, it tells you if you want to escape this stuff that we just read, because I'm pretty sure, you know, the whole nation of America turned into a melting pot, a melting lava pit. That is very scary. The, just the fact of knowing that when nuclear war kicks off, America is going to be knocked off the map. That's pretty scary. But they're telling you to protect yourself from that. It says, "Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and keep the faith of Jesus." Right. So why is Pastor not teaching that part? But they tell you that the laws are done away with, but then they take your tithe money when tithes is part of the law, right? And so like I said, it's a game. It's all a game, right? Let's get um let's get 15:2, right? Let's get 15, jump to 15:2. It says, "And I saw there were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten victory over the beast." Right? So now this is the ones that's hopefully us that get saved up out of this thing. So now we flying over the firmament of this place, and we just watching this whole earth is on fire because of the nuclear bombs that every country is dropping. I know y'all all seen the graphics, when they show you um, nuclear war, like they show you the little computer generated. So it's basically saying that this country launched, that within notice of that country launching their bomb, then America gonna launch theirs, then this country gonna launch theirs, then this it just shows you like this bombs flying from everywhere, hitting everything, right? So we're gonna be, you know, flying over the firmament, in the chariots of God, right? Who they call what they used to call UFOs, but we know what it is, right? So we're gonna be flying over the firmament. That's why it says it look like fire. It look like a sea of glass mingled with fire. So we're gonna be looking through the firmament down at the earth and just watching this whole place looking like a ball of fire, right? And it says, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, meaning we were able to survive this hellish conditions that America tried to put on us, all this crazy stuff that they do to us, the determined camps, concentration camps, the FEMA camps, forcing us to try to take the mark of the beast, the whole persecuting us, because we're not trying to get down or we ain't gonna get down, so they're gonna try to make us lay down. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna what it says the victory over the beast and over the image and over his mark, because we didn't receive the mark. This is the victory for those people that did not take the mark, right? And sadly to say, it's only going to be a few of us that actually don't take it, right? Because a lot of us is going to break, a lot of us going to fold, and no knock on some of our people that end up taking the little thing in the arm, a couple of years ago when it was telling everybody you got to get the little thing in your arm so you can work or travel. So a lot of people felt like they needed their job and they wanted to work. So they end up folding and actually getting it, But some people said, forget all that stuff. I'm not doing it. I was one of them, right? So, like I said, but in this day, a lot of our people is going to take the mark because they're going to, the same reason why they end up taking the little jab in the arm. They're gonna take the mark. So it says, victory over the beast and victory over his image and over his mark and over the number of his name. Stand on a sea of glass, having harps of God. Meaning we're gonna be celebrating. We're gonna be turning up. We're gonna be watching this place get destroyed, and we're gonna be rejoiceful because we know that the hell that we have to go through in America, whether it's physically, mentally, the stress, we ain't got to have to pay not another bill. We ain't got to worry about, no type of oppression, none of that stuff. We ain't got to never have another merch talking about hands up, don't shoot, I can't breathe, no more civil rights, none of that stuff. Because we're going to have the victory and we're going to know that it's our time now, right? So we ain't going to be worrying about this stuff, right? Then it says, and they sing the song of Moses and the song of the Lamb, saying, "Great and marvelous are thy works, and the Lord Almighty, just and true are thy ways in the kings of saints." Right. So, like I said, we're gonna be understanding the laws of God in that day. Right. We're gonna be keeping the commandments. We're gonna be learning the commandments, and so that's what I mean by singing the song of Moses. The song of Moses is the laws, right? And we're gonna know it in that day, right? Because that's why we always talk about we got to keep the faith and the commandments so we can get up out of here, right? Let's get 16 into it. And it says, and the first went out and poured a vow upon the earth, and there fell noisome and grievous sores upon the man which have the mark of the beast. Right now, this is interesting, right? A soldier recently, well, not so much recently, but maybe a couple of years ago, got fired from the Navy. You know, because he was talking about when there was microchipping everybody. You know, they were getting these sores and stuff all over their bodies and all that stuff. And he was speaking out on it. You know what I'm saying? So, and they fired him. So, and we see right here that says the first went out and poured out of his vow upon the earth, and there fell noisome and grievous sores upon the man which had the mark of the beast, and upon which uh, worship his image, right? And so that's what's going to happen. These people, one of the things that the FDA was, concerned about, because it took, because when Elon Musk first, came out with the whole Neuralink thing, you know, they rejected it, the FDA, because there was concerns about it overheating and all that stuff, right? Because it's still a computer thing, talking about it's overheating and all that. So, and who's to say that that problem is already fixed? So then, if you got that thing in your body and it starts to overheat, what I'm saying, it can cause boils and bruises all over your body, right? So, and so it says, and the first went out and poured out his vow upon the earth, and there fell noisome and grievous sores upon the man which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worship his image, right? So that's what's gonna happen to these people that end up taking the mark. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna get these nasty boils on their skin, these nasty gruesome sores, that's gonna cause you to, to stream out, right? It's gonna be crazy, right? Then it says, and the second angel poured out his vial and the upon the sea, and became as blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea, right? And that's what's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? And that's going to lead into famine, because when the water becomes undrinkable, that's going to lead into famine, right? Let's get Second Ezra 15:6, right? So it says, "For the wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled." So that's what's going on, right? This place is deeply polluted. Um, in the Pacific Ocean, they have a plastic made island that's just floating around in the Pacific Ocean, that's just from plastic and trash, from America and probably elsewhere, right? And they say that it's about the same size as Texas, right? You can see it from space with satellites. That's how big it is, right? Just floating in the ocean, right? So it tells you that the wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, right? And like we just read here, it says the second shall pour out a vial upon the sea and it become with blood in the of the dead man, and every living soul died in the sea, right? So that's talking about water pollution. You think Flint, Michigan was something, right? You think what they got going on in Mississippi, they don't talk about that no more neither. Imagine worldwide water unable to drink. That's going to cause a massive starvation and death, right? So that's what's going to happen. So let's jump up to chapter 19 real quick. 19 and 20. Then it says, and the beast was taken, and him and the false prophet was wrought miracles before them, with he deceived them and had received the mark of the beast. And them that worshipped his image, these both were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. So we already established that America is going to be that lake of fire. Then it says, the beast, which is NATO and the EU, their armies is going to be picking up, the angels is going to grab them, pick them up, and just toss them over there into that burning fire that's going to be this place. Right? Then it says, in the false prophet, talking about the Roman Catholic Church and all their religions that they propagate is going to be thrown in there with them, right? Which he deceived them as he received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped the image, these both were cast into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone, right? And the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which a sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls of their flesh, right? Um, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. So basically, so the ones that don't get uh, swooped up and thrown into the lake of fire, then you know the Israelites are going to destroy the rest of them. Because when we get into the whole where it says, "He that sat on the throne or sat on the white horse with a sword proceeding out of his mouth," that's him giving that commandment. And we can read about that, you know, um, about him giving that commandment for the Israelites to destroy these other nations when they come against us up in Armageddon, right? We're gonna get a little bit into that, right? So just get Revelation 20 and 4. Then it says, and I saw the throne, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahweh for Jesus, and for the word of God, which have not worshipped the beast, neither his image. So a lot of us might die in that day. A lot of us, but you have to be willing to die for what you believe in. You can't be no bitch about it, right? You know what I'm saying? If you gotta, have something that you willing to die for. A lot of our people don't stand on nothing, right? Our ancestors died, you know, believing in what they believed in, right? What am I? Let me see if I can find it, right? Let's see if I can find it. I think it's bear with me, bear with me. Might be in Maccabees. I don't know why I can't never find it. Okay, here we go, right here. This is one of my favorite stories, and sometimes I read it just to inspire myself, to let myself know that we got to have faith. You know what I'm saying? You got to be willing to die for what you believe in, right? So now this is, let me see, where can I start at? Boom, boom, boom. Let's just read this real quick, right? This is Second Maccabees 7:1, right? Let's read this real quick. So, like I said, I like this story. So we got to understand, like we just read here. It says, and I saw the throne, and them that sat upon, and judgment was given unto them, and I saw the souls of them which were beheaded for the witness of Jesus, for Yahushua, and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither received his mark upon their foreheads their hand, um, or their hand, and they lived and reigned with the Mashiach for 1,000 years, right? So like I said, like I said, you might be in a situation, you might be in one of those little FEMA camps, one of the little things that they got going on, and what I'm saying, they might say, hey, either take this or die. Then what I'm saying, you might have to choose. You're gonna have to choose to die, right? And you can't just lose faith and be like, oh dang, maybe God is not with me. You know what I'm saying? Oh dang, maybe because like I said, some of our people will have to die for that reason, right? You know what I'm saying? To be a martyr, right? And becoming a martyr is not that bad because that's just um, giving God more fuel to judge this place because you're going to see, like, oh, you killed my servant that was faithful to the death. That's what you want to be. You want to be faithful to death. You don't want to, it's different. Some of our people, when they about to die, that's when they want to try to, you know, get down with God and ask God for forgiveness and you know, forgive me for everything I've done. And when they about to die, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's crazy to think that. I mean, like I said, we ain't gonna get into that, but it's the difference between that and actually being faithful to death, meaning you doing what you're supposed to do, you keeping the faith, and then you standing on what you're standing on, you're willing to die for it, right? So just get this, right? I'm gonna start it from the top. I'm trying to read through it fast. I'm gonna try to read through it fast. So, like I said, this all through the spirit. Cause this wasn't even part of the plan. But like I said, I'm just share this with y'all. And when you understand the story, it's inspiring too. So it says, it came to pass also that the seven brethren with their mother were taken. Right. So now these are seven brothers, and their mother was kidnapped, was taken by the Greeks. Right. And it says, were taken and compelled by the king against the law to taste swine's flesh. So they're trying to make these seven brothers and a mother eat pork, right? Now they did this for pork, right? And some of our people, what I'm saying, if they get hungry enough, they'll eat them some bacon, they'll eat them some ham, right? I know a few days ago a lot of our people ate bacon and ham, right? But these people right here was willing to die for not eating pork, right? And you got to have that same unction, that same spirit, to be willing to die to keep God's laws, right? And don't, like Scarface said, don't break them for nobody, right? So it says, it came to pass that seven brethren with their mother were taken and compelled by the king against the law to taste swine's flesh, which is pork, the pig, and were tormented with scourges and whips, meaning they beat them with whips. You know what I'm saying? They did the Toby on their ass. They beat them, trying to make them eat pork. And it says, but one of them that spake first said thus. This is one of the hardest lines in the Bible right here, right? And it says, and one of them spake first said thus, what thou hast asked or learned of us. So he's like, dude, like you've been beating us, been torturing us. What have you learned from us? He said, we are ready to die rather than transgress the laws of our fathers, right? So that's how you gotta be in that day. You gotta be like these strong, mighty brothers right here. It says, but what, uh, what is thou ask and learn of us? We are ready to die rather than transgress the laws of our fathers, right? And the laws of our fathers is the laws that was given to us through Moses, right? That's the laws of our fathers. It's gotta have that same unction, right? So let's read it again. It says, but one of them spake first and said, what is thou hast learned of us? We are ready to die rather than transgress the laws of our father. Then the king, being enraged, commanded pans of uh, cauldrons made hot. So they boil grease. You know what I'm saying? They boil hot grease, right? What do they do with this grease? Then it says, which forthwith being heated and commanded to cut out the tongue of the first, cut out the tongue that spake first. So they cut out one of their brother's tongues, right? Torturing this man, and then cut the outmost parts of his body. So they skinned this man alive over a hot boiling pot of grease, right? Because he didn't want to eat pork, and he said, "We willing to die." They killed him in a gruesome way, right? Then it says, and the rest of his brethren and his mother looked on, and when he was thus maimed and all his members, he commanded him, being yet alive, to be brought to the fire and to be fried in the pan. So they put the hot oil on them and they fried them in the pan after they done cut them up, skinned them and all that stuff, right? They killed him, right? In front of his brothers and his mother. So let's go. Then it says, now he was now he was thus maimed in all of his members, and they commanded him, being yet alive, to be brought to the fire and the fire pan, and the vapor of the pan was good space dispersed. They escorted one another to the mother to die manfully, saying thus, right? So the mother was on that too. The mother's like told her sons, look, die a man. You know what I'm saying? Don't be a little punk about it. You saw how your brother went out. You go out the same way, die a man, right? Don't, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause a lot of our people would break, you know what I'm saying? They would, they'll have some principles or something that they're supposed to stand on. But then a little pressure comes and they fold. But not our father. That's how you got to be in that day, right? That's the type of attitude we got to have. Then it says, then his mother says they escorted one another with the mother to die manfully, saying thus, and the Lord look upon us, and the truth have comfort us in us, as Moses and his song which witnessed to our faces declare, saying, he shall be comfort in his servants. And when the first was dead after this number, they brought the second to make him a mocking stock. And when they had pulled off the skin of his head, they scalped the second brother. They skin off his head with his hairs. They asked him, "Will thou eat before thou be punished throughout every member of your body?" But he answered in his own language, meaning he spoke the Hebrew on them, and said, "No." And how you say no in Hebrew? La'ah. He said la'ah, right? That's what he told him, la'ah. It says, uh, where wherefore he also received the next torment in order as the former did. When he was at the last gasp, he said, "Thou, like a fury, taking us out of the presence of life, but the King of the world shall rises up again, for who have died for his laws unto everlasting life." So they understood, like, look, you can kill me, but I have a king that's gonna rise me up again, right, to everlasting life, right? And we're not talking about, because this ain't Christianity. We ain't talking about when you're gonna die and go to heaven and you're gonna be living with sweet Jesus. No, we're talking about back on this earth again, right? Ruling with power, right, and authority. That's what this talking about. Because the kingdom will be on earth. It's not a place that you gotta die and go to. All right, because the kingdom will be on earth, like the prayer says, on earth as it is in heaven, right? So then after him was the third made a mocking stock, and he was required, and he put out his tongue and that writes soon, holding forth his hands manfully, and said courageously, these I have from heaven, and for his laws I despise them. From him I hope to receive them again. So he like, man, he had his hands cut off, and he like, look, I got them hands from heaven, and then and from heaven I will receive them again. So these is men we talking about, right? So like I said, I ain't gonna read the whole account. I really do want to, but we're gonna start right there because basically all seven brothers died. You know what I'm saying? And they died like men. They didn't cower it up or nothing like that. And they had their strong black mother right there to encourage them to, hey, don't be no punk about this. Don't allow yourself to cower it out and let what your brother did before you be for nothing, right? You die a man also, right? So they was all slowly executed, right? A painful, gruesome death by the hands of these nasty, filthy, dirty, disgusting Greeks, right? So let's get it though. Let's go back over here. Let's get to this whole thing, right? So let's get Ezekiel 38. Ezekiel 38, right? And it says, and the word came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against God, the land of Magog. Now, who is God? God is the ruler of Russia, right? And it says, the land of Magog. Magog is Russia. Because I believe Magog is the ancient way of saying Moscow, right? And it says, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, right? It's talking about the Ukraine area and all the other little city states that was once attached to Russia, right? Before the Soviet Union was taken dismantled, right? And it says, and I will return thee back and put hooks into thy jaw, and I will bring thee forth in all thy armies, and horses and men, all of them clothed in sorts of armor, even great company with bucklers and shields, all them handling swords. So that's what he's going to do to this Russian army. He's bringing Putin and the whole Russian political thing into the state of the USSR, how they used to be, back to the Soviet state, back to the Cold War mentality. You know, because when you following along with geopolitics, Russia did not want to go do what they did to Ukraine. They was forced to do it, right? Russia took over a city in Ukraine, and then a week or so later, they gave it back to them just to let them know, like, hey, we don't want to do this. We're trying to offer you a way out, but the Ukrainians are still trying to lean on the help of America and don't even understand that America don't care if every last Ukrainian die, long as they, you know, is able to slow down Russia a little bit. Even Joe Biden got on TV and said, talking about, like, yeah, you need to vote for me and all that stuff, right? He was like, look, trust me with this Russia Ukraine stuff, And guess what? We don't have to do the dying. And you know what he mean by that? That we don't have to do the dying, meaning, look, we don't have to send American soldiers over there to fight, because the Ukrainians is over there fighting, and we can just give them supplies and weapons, and they're gonna do the fighting for us, right? So Biden don't even care about these people losing their lives over there trying to fan off Putin, right? Just as long as he don't have to fight against Putin, right? And which is going to come eventually anyway. So it says, I will turn ye back and put hooks into thy jaws, right? So that's the guy, when you fishing, right? And you got a hook, a fishing hook. You put, the fish take that bait, you know what I'm saying, on a hook. You essentially control them, you know what I'm saying? Because you got that hook in their jaws, you can, tug them and pull them whatever way you're trying to pull them to, right? So that's how God is liking how he's doing the spirit of these Russians. He's bringing them back into the state of war, right? And like I said, so Putin's like he didn't want to go through all that, you know what I'm saying? But America is flirting with Ukraine, and they got, when you look at the map of NATO, they got essentially got Russia surrounded. You know what I'm saying? They can attack Russia from any angle if they wanted to. So Putin got tired of it. Like, look, you're not gonna take Ukraine because Ukraine is basically Russia, and technically it's next door. So no, we ain't going. You know what I'm saying? I'm fighting back. You know what I'm saying? So we got to understand that. But America news, they want to portray him like he's just this horrible guy that just want to just decide to go pick on Ukraine. No, he invaded Ukraine to save himself, because if America take Ukraine, NATO take Ukraine, that's more nuclear weapons pointing at Russia, and he knows that. So he ain't gonna be able to move. So he needs a little wiggle room, right? So it says, I will turn thee back, and I put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thy enemies, the horses and horsemen, and all them clothed with all sorts of armor, even great company with bucklers and shields, and all of them handling swords. Right? Talking about getting their army right, right? And it says Persia, which is modern day Iran, Ethiopia. They down with Russia also. Libya, North Africa, they're down with Russia. With them, so they bring in the this. They bring in the how Jay Z said, bring the flutes out, Guru. You know what I'm saying? They bring in the flutes out. You know what I'm saying? All these different nations that is tied up with Russia at this point, right? This is what we call the BRICS, right? And we ain't talk about China and Brazil and and India, right? We read about that in Zechariah, the four carpenters, right? Bricks in the Bible is also known as the four carpenters, right? So it says Gomer, right, and all his bands of thousands of uh, Tugramov and North Quarters, and all his bands with many people with thee, right? So, like I said, so Russia is coming with them peoples, right? And we know them as the brick, right? So they, so like I said, so let's get it right. So this is Zechariah. It says, Zechariah 1 and 18, I lift up my eyes, and I saw, and behold, four horns. And I said unto the angel that talked with me, what be these? And he answered, these are the four horns which scattered Judah and Israel and Jerusalem. So these four horns is talking about America, Britain, Spain, and Portugal. Those are the ones that scattered Judah through the slave trade, right? North Atlantic slave trade. Then it says, and the Lord showed me four carpenters. These four carpenters are the BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China. Then all these other countries that we just read right here in 38. Then it says, and then I said, what come with these? What come these to do? And he spake, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man lift up their head, but these come to fray them. So that's what. So when you hear me say that World War III is going to be the catalyst to our salvation, to our freedom. This is where we're getting it from because it says, the four horns which scattered Judah, which is America, Britain, Spain, and Portugal, so that no man lift up his head, meaning they took our pride away. They took our fighting spirit away from us, right? That's why a lot of us just get along with the get along. We don't want to start no trouble. You know what I'm saying? So it says, took that none of us will lift our head, but these, talking about the four carpenters, are come to free them and cast out the horns of the Gentiles, which lift up their horns over the land of Judah and to scatter it. So this is why we say that when World War III kicks off and then we get delivered out of this thing, it is a catalyst. It is essential to our true salvation, to what salvation is. Because the Bible tells you what salvation is. Salvation is being saved from your enemies. And you read about that in, what's that, Luke 4 and 17, Isaiah 61, you know, the first chapter, the first verse, right? On down to 3 or 7 or something like that, right? So that's what salvation is. Salvation is not whatever they've been telling us in church, you know, that you die and now you're in heaven. No, salvation is being saved from your enemies, right? Let's just get that really quick, because I don't like just saying stuff and don't have no proof behind it. Because I don't want you to just take my word for it. We can read it together, right? So this is Isaiah 60 and 1. It says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because the Lord have anointed me to preach good tidings, because good tidings is the gospel, unto the meek, and has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted. Who is the brokenhearted? We are. And to proclaim liberty to the captives. Who are the captives? We are, because we've been taken into captives to all these different nations. And to open up the prison to them that are bound. Who make up majority 80% of the population in prison? Our people do. Then it says to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion. To be more specific, for people who want to think, oh, this is open to everybody. This is for the people of Zion, to give them beauty for ashes and oil of joy, and for mourning the garment of praise, and for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of the righteousness, and the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. Right? So that's what the gospel is. That's what salvation is. Right? Let's get some more real quick before we get back into this Ezekiel. This is Luke. This is Luke 4 and 18. And it says, and the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. So this is Christ identifying what the gospel is. So it says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. So he's actually reading what we just read in Isaiah. Because when you read a verse up, it tells you that the book of Isaiah was given to him. Then he opened up to Isaiah chapter 61, verse 1, and he read, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor, and he hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to teach deliverance to the captives, and recovering the sight to the blind, and set me liberty over them that are bruised. Right? So that's who the gospel is for, right? Let's get Isaiah 42 and 2 real quick. It says, but this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes. They are hidden in prison houses. That's our people. We make up 80% of the population of jail. They are for a prey, meaning they all take advantage of us in some type of way, of form or fashion, and none deliver for a spoil, and none says restore, meaning nobody comes to our aid to help us. Like when stuff happens around the world, all these countries, they go to the aid of these different countries to help, but nobody comes to help us when stuff happens to us, right? Let's get this last one. Luke 1 and 68. So we got to understand what the gospel is, what salvation is. Then it says, blessed be the Lord God of Israel. Of who? Israel. Of what? Israel, right? For he has visited visit and redeem his people. He has raised up a horn of salvation for us, right? So we see that who the salvation is for us. And that salvation is going to come when we get delivered out of these various places that we've been scattered to when World War III kicks off, right? For us, in the house of his servant David, he has spoken by the mouth of his holy prophets, which has been since the world began, right? That we should be saved from our enemies. So you hear people, those church going people always talking about they saved. What are you actually saved from? Right? Because you still suffering health problems. You still got them bills you got to pay. You still got to taxes and all that stuff. But the Bible says that when we are saved, it says that we should be saved from our enemies, from the hand of all that hate us. Right? To perform the mercy and the promise to our fathers and to remember his holy covenant. Who was the holy covenant given to? The Israelites, right? And that's who was going to remain with the Israelites. And you read about that in Romans 9 and 4. Then it says, the oath which he swore unto our fathers, Abraham. Not everybody can say that their father was Abraham, but guess who can say that? The Israelites. Then it says that we should would be granted unto us that we should be delivered out of the hands of our enemies and might serve him without fear. Right? So then we're finally going to be able to serve God properly and without, you know, this oppression that we have to go through, without this hell that we have to go through, without all this sickness and ill stuff going on with us, right? We we finally gonna be able to do this properly, right? In that day. Right? So back over here. Then it says, start back at 5. Then it says, Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, and all of them with shields and helmets, Gomer, and all the bands in the house of uh, Tubgarmoth, in the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. But thou prepare for thyself, thou be all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be a guard to them. So that's why Russia is going to be forced into this thing too. Because Russia was, they roll with Iran, and Iran is kind of, they rolling with Hamas, right? And so God is telling them, God is telling Russia, be a guard to these nations. All these different nations we just went over, Iran, uh, North Africa, um, all the different nations that's under the brick. God is telling them, hey, protect them, be a guard to them, right? So if Iran end up getting into physical confrontation with Israel, which going to lead into a physical confrontation with America, then guess what? Russia coming in there, and guess who else coming with them? China, and guess who's rolling with China? Korea, and guess what we got? Hey, World War III, right? That's what we got there. But then it says, after many days thou shalt be visited, on the latter years thou shalt come into the land which brought back from the sword. Right? So what is the land that's brought back from the sword? Israel. Right? Because during this time, Israel's going to, because we see the makings of it, especially if this thing carry on, because Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Nahu, said that this war with Hamas could potentially take up to a year, right? So it's not anything that's going to be done with overnight or in a matter of months. He understands that this is going to be a long, drawn out thing. The land brought back from the sword and gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have always been wasted, but is brought forth out of the nations and have dwelt safely all of them. So this is speaking of when all this stuff kicks off and we get delivered, we get, like we read in Revelations, how we overcome the beast and all that stuff. We're going to be brought back into the land of Israel. But Israel's going to be decimated. Why? Because of the bombs and the war that's going on. But we're going to be dwelling there safely, right? We're going to be there cooling it. right? But guess what's gonna happen? Let's read on. Thou shalt ascend and come like a storm, and thou shalt be like a cloud, covering the land, and thou and all thy bands and many people with thee. Right? So it's talking about Russia. Russia's gonna see us chilling over in Israel, doing our thing, right? Living it up, being cool with it. And then they're gonna descend on us like the devil they are, because they just like how America is a bunch of devils, Russia, man, is a bunch of devils too, right? Because they are the same people. They just call themselves different names and speak different languages. But they all both Esau. They all both Edomites, right? So let's get Micah real quick. 4:11. So it says Micah 4:11. Now also many nations are gathered against thee, that say, let her be defiled and let our eyes look upon Zion. So when they, when they finish blowing up Israel, I mean, it's not happening now, but once more nations get involved, Israel is going to be, you know, broken down to rebel. So we're going to be back over there chilling while everybody is still, you know, finding ways how to destroy themselves. So let's read back over here. It says, uh, Ezekiel 38:10. Thus said Yahweh God, it shall also come to pass that in the same time so the things come into thy mind, talking about the leader of Russia, that something is going to come into his mind, and thou shalt say, thou shalt think a evil thought. What is this evil thought? The evil thought is like, hey, remember how cool America was when they had those black people over there? You know, those black and brown people over there. Remember how great America was? Okay, now that we done took America out, you know what I'm saying, destroyed NATO, you know, now we the world power. Let's get our country rebuilt. Let's go get them niggas over there, right? So that's that evil thought that's gonna come into Putin or whoever is running Russia at this time, which it could be Putin because the way things are set up, how their politics is set up, that Putin is still going to be leading all the way up until 2030 something, right? So it could be him, right? Then let's get Revelation 20:8 real quick. And it says, and shall go out to deceive nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. So Russia's going to gather all the armies of the world to come against us, right? And really, come against Yahweh Shah, because when you read Isaiah 63, they're going to tell you what Yahweh Shah is going to be doing. Yahweh Shah is going to be going around destroying these nations, the residue of these nations, and they're going to see this intergalactical being, this supernatural being, and then they're going to be like, hey, we're going to have to fight this guy. Who's this guy that showed up and just stumped everybody out real quick, right? Oh, he's over in Israel with them niggas over there, and them spicks over there. Let's go get them, right? So that's what's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? We already covered that too, but we're gonna get into a little bit of it right now. So so then it says that's the evil thought. Let's get second Ezra 13 and 15 real quick. Second Ezra 13 and 5, should I say? I said 15. 13 and 5, right? And it reads, after this I beheld, and lo, there was a gathering of a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of heaven to subdue the men that came out to sea. Like we just read in Revelation 20:8, that Russia's going to gather all these different numbers, all these different nations of armies to subdue the man that came out the sea. And what is the sea? The sea of people, meaning us, the ones that have been delivered, the ones that God went and gathered from all different parts of the earth and brought us back to our land, right? So it says, and I beheld, and lo, he had graven himself a great mountain and flew upon it. The great mountain is Israel, talking about us. uh, but I would have seen the region or place uh, thereout of the hills was graven, I could not. Meaning we went and we went and ran. You know, our people ran when we saw the Russian armies and all the people coming. We got up out of there, right? You know, not because we were scared. I mean, yeah, because we were scared, but mostly because the 144,000 and Yahweh Shah is going to do this fighting right here, right? And the ones that's not the 144,000, which would just be the multitude of people, you know, they wanted to hide while all this fighting about to go down. So then it says, and behold, and lo, the graven, he had graven himself a great mountain and flew upon it. But I would have seen the region or place with whereout of the hills was graven. I could not, meaning we got up out of there, right? And let them battle it out. Then it says, after this I behold, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were so afraid, and thus yet fight. So they're gonna come in to see this intergalactical being, this supernatural being, who the word, who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ, real name in the Hebrew Yahweh Shai. They're gonna come and fight this man, but they're gonna be scared to their bones to fight this man. But they're gonna fight because that's just the pride of these people, right? They really think they got a chance. They don't watch too many Independence Days, right? They think all they need is a Will Smith to come and punch this guy in the face and it's on. No, it ain't happening like that, right? Then it says, and lo, and he saw the violence of the multitude and came, and he neither lifted up his hand nor held a sword nor an instrument of war. But I only saw he sent out his mouth as it has been a blast of fire out of his lips as a flaming breath out of the tongue he cast out sparks and tempests, right? And they that were mixed together a blast of fire and a flaming breath and a great tempest and uh, fell, fell with violence upon the multitude. So this is him giving an order to the 144,000, like like that movie 300 when Xerxes was like slaughter them, right? That's what Yahweh is going to tell us in that day. Slaughter them, right? Probably not say it like that. You know, it's going to be I forgot how you say it in Hebrew, but it's gonna be cold. That's what he's gonna say, right? So then and they all mixed together with the blast of tempest of fire and the great tempest and fell with violence upon the multitude which were prepared to fight and and burnt them up every one so that upon a sudden innumerable multitude nothing was perceived. So all them armies that Russia done gathered to come with them to come fight us, there's gonna be nothing of them to perceive. Meaning they just gonna we're gonna just devour them, turn them into ashes, beat them into dust, right? Like beat them into like powder, till they just blow away in the wind. Let's see. Says upon a sudden of innumerable multitude, nothing was perceived but only dust and the smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. So our dear brother Ezra is seeing this vision of Armageddon and seeing the Israelites fight against these different nations and destroying them, like just like just doing all types of stuff, just destroying them, running, just doing things to them, and we turned them into dust. And Ezra is watching this. Now, keep in mind, Ezra is an Israelite. He's a mighty prophet, but he on the good side. He on the right side. But he still was afraid of the stuff that he saw that we were doing to these people, right? That's how messed. That's how it's gonna be in that day. So we gotta understand how this whole thing is gonna play out, right? And after I saw it came that same man down from the mountain and called another peaceable multitude, and there came much people unto him. Therefore, some were glad, some were sorry, and some were bound. Meaning, we're gonna have prisoners with us in that day. You know, like we read in Isaiah 14:2, right? You know, I think we read that earlier. So, like I said, we're gonna have people that we have to take captive, man, because you know Isaiah 60:10 tells us that what's going on with that. We're gonna have these servants build up our kingdom again. And like we went over, we're gonna be brought back from the land that was from the sword. Israel's gonna be destroyed. Because all them bombs and stuff that been is gonna end up hitting that place after a while. So it's gonna have to get built up again, and we're not gonna do the building. They are just like how they made us build up America and England and France and all that stuff. They're gonna have to build up our place, right? So yeah, let's move on. So back to Ezekiel 38:11. And thus said, I will go up into the land of unwalled villages. So it's talking about Israel. Why is it the land of unwalled villages? Because it's destroyed now. It has no protection. Because right now Israel they have walls. They have something called the Iron Dome that can deflect missiles and stuff, right? They say it can defend off 90% of all missiles that come into that's try to hit them, right? But it's going to be in that day. It's going to be land of unwalled villages, and I will go to them that are at rest. Who are our rest? At rest, the Israelites that dwell safely. All of them dwelling without walls and having neither no bars, no gate. So the leader of Russia, the reason why at this point I'm calling him the leader of Russia, because we don't want to speak presumptuously and say it's going to be Putin, right? We hope it's Putin because if it is Putin, that means all this stuff is going to happen, relatively soon because Putin is in office. But but we don't want to speak presumptuously, so we're going to say the leader of Russia, right? But right now, like I said, it's looking like it could be Putin. When you look at how their politics are set up, right? So then it says, boom, boom, I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them, dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates, right? To take a spoil and to take a prey, and turn thy hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations which have gotten cattle and goods and dwell in the midst of the land, right? So we're gonna be over there good while everybody else is starving, trying to figure it out. They looking like the movie Book of Eli, uh Mad Max and the Thunderdome, uh out here like The Walking Dead. We're gonna be having food, cattle. We're gonna be doing our thing. So they're gonna see all of that. Like, no, man, like, I don't like that. They gonna like dude from Paying the Four. I don't like that shit. That's how he gonna be. That's what the leader of Russia gonna be on. Like, I don't like that shit. Them niggas starting hard over there. I don't like that. So then he gonna come and think because we're just a bunch of niggers and spicks, a bunch of black and brown people, that we're gonna be easy to take. But they don't know that we got a Yahweh Shai with us. We have King of Kings, Lord of Lords with us. You know what I'm saying? The ultimate warrior with us. You know, so and that's why when it says we read in Ezra's, as they approaching, they was afraid. But they still fought anyway, right? So then, let's get this really quick, really quick. Let's get Psalms 23:1. So yeah, we're gonna be chilling, man, in that day, right? It says, we're gonna be chilling. So then it says, this is Psalms of David. The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want. He made me lie down in green pastures, and he led me beside the still water. He restored my soul. He healed me in the path of righteousness, and for his name's sake. Yet though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. So they're gonna be seeing us chilling, got our food, got our cattle. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna be straight. While the rest of the world, like I said, they living in World War Z. You know what I'm saying? What's the other? Like I said, Walking Dead, Book of Eli type lifestyle they got going on after World War III is over with, right? But it says, thou prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies, and thou anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Forever, ever, forever, ever, right? So that's how we're gonna be getting down in that day, right? And they're gonna be hating on it. Like I said, you're gonna be like dude from uh Paid in Full. I don't like that shit. I don't like that shit. I'm gonna drop a dime in them niggas. Wait, was it Paid in Full? What I'm talking about? Was that Paid in Full? Belly. That was Belly. I'm tripping. Belly. Right. Y'all know what I'm talking about though. Belly. So then let's get Wisdom of Solomon really quick. Get Wisdom of Solomon 12:3. It says, for it was thy will to destroy by the hands of our fathers both those who inhabit of thy holy land, whom thou hatest for doing most uh, idolatrous works and witchcraft and the wicked sacrifices. So, like I said, hold on, that's what I want. Hold on one second. I mean, I guess we could, yeah, okay. But it says, for it was thy will to destroy by the hands of our fathers, both those who old inhabitants of thy holy land, right? And that's what's going to happen. Like these people that's living in our holy land is going to be destroyed. Then it says, "For it was thy will to destroy by the hands of our fathers, both those of the old inhabitants of the holy land." Right. So, like I said, on people that inhabit in the land, like I said, they're going to be destroyed. Right. And God using them to destroy themselves. Let's get Isaiah 60 real quick. Isaiah 60:10. So Isaiah 60:10 says, and the sons of the strangers shall build up thy walls, and the kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor I have mercy upon thee. Right? So, like I said, so these other nations are going to have to come and build up our kingdom. So that's why when we read in Ezra, it says some of them were bound, meaning we had them in chains. They was coming to serve, and they was going to have to build up our kingdoms. Then it says, and the ministers and the kings shall minister unto thee. So a lot of people will take this word minister and they think about pastor on Sunday morning. Just the word minister just means to cater to to attend to. So these uh, elites of the world, these rulers of the world, is gonna have to attend to and cater to us as Israelites, right? So it says, and the sons of the strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor I have mercy on thee. Therefore thy gates shall be open continuously; they shall not be shut day nor night, that the men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be brought. Right? For that nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Those nations shall utterly be wasted. So if they don't want to get down with the get down, God is going to destroy them. So they got to get down with the get down, right? So just keep on reading. So it says to take us back to Ezekiel 38 and 12. To take a spoil and a prey and turn thy hand upon the desolate places. Right, hold on, let's start back at 11 for then it says, and thou shalt say, I will go up into to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them and take a great and take. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, in all of them dwelling without walls and having neither their bars or gates. Right, and we just read that. That's God, blessing us and keep protecting us. Right. I will take a spoil and a prey, and turn thy hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations. Who are the people gathered out of the nations? We are. We are the ones that's going to be gathered out of these nations, and which have gotten cattle and good and dwell in the midst of the land. Right? And I wish I could think of that verse right now, but like basically the premise of the verse is, God is using these different African nations to stock up on different foods and all that stuff. So we're gonna be straight. We're gonna be able to eat, right? So that's why people be looking at those little food banks they got. They got the little thing that's in the North Pole somewhere, Antarctica, some crazy cold ass spot where they keeping food just in case something happens, and then so all that is gonna be for us, right? All these people that's trying to save all this stuff up and all that stuff, thinking they're gonna have it to survive on. God is giving it to us, right? But I can't think of that verse, right now to show y'all exactly what I'm talking about. But then it says, Sheba, Dan, and the merchants of Tyrus, talking about the Ethiopians and the people of East Africa and Tyrus and the Arab countries, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, Art thou come to take a spoil? So now these are some of the Arab countries, because they're rolling with Russia, but the Arab countries, even though they read the Quran, but they have the prophets in their book, so they know the prophecies. They know when Israel is back in the land, don't mess with us, don't touch us, don't do nothing to us. You know, you can't mess with us, right? We're like superheroes. We're like the Avengers now. You can't do nothing to us. So it says, to take a spoil, to take a prey, to turn thy hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, upon the people that are gathered out of the nations which have gotten cattle and goods, that dwell in the midst of the land. Sheba and Dan, Ethiopia, um, and then like them little Arab countries. Um, and it says Sheba and Dan and the merchants of Tarkish, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee. Who's the thee? He's talking about the leader of Russia. Art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away the cattle and the goods, to take away a great spoil? So they're gonna ask him like, man, you going down to Israel to go mess with them niggas? You going down to Israel to rob them and take what they got? That's what you want? That's what they're gonna ask him. Therefore, the Son of Man prophesied against God, which is the leader of Russia. Thus said the Lord, in that day when my people of Israel dwell safely, shall thou not know it. So it's like, dude, you don't know that. And Putin is an Orthodox Christian, right? So I'm pretty sure they should know some of these prophecies, even though, well, they probably in Orthodox Christianism, They probably study more so of what they call the New Testament versus getting into the prophecies of old like that. But they're gonna say, therefore the Son of Man prophesies against unto God, and thus said Yahweh power, in the day when my people of Israel dwell safely, thou shalt not know it, and thou shalt come from thy place out of the north parts, and thou many people with thee, and all of them riding upon horses in great company, and all of the mighty army. Hey man, you bringing all these nations, all these different people with you, yo. And thou shalt come against my people of Israel as a cloud to cover the land, and it shall be in the latter days I will bring thee against my land. You know, so God is going to allow them to come and try to attack us because He's ultimately trying to destroy them totally. We read about that in the book of Obadiah, right? About how He's going to take these people out. You know, and it says, "I will bring thee against my land, that the heathen may know me when uh, I shall sanctify thee, O God, before their eyes." So God said He gonna let it be known His power when He take these people down in front of all the rest of the nations. He's gonna destroy all these nation armies, the biggest army that ever been assembled, all together at once, using his people called the Israelites. So you read about that in Jeremiah 51:20, right? Then it says, "Thus said the Lord God, art thou he who have spoken in old times by my servant, the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years will bring thee against them. And thou shalt come to pass in the same time when God shall come against the land of Israel, said the Lord of God, said the Lord God, that my fury shall come in my face." So God is gonna get angry with these people when they happen, right? You know, just like when you waiting for somebody to do something before you can just get angry. So God know they gonna come against us, and He getting when He do it, He gonna be ready to explode on them and get angry. It says, "For my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath I have spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel." I mean, He gonna throw down with you, like we read about that in Second Ezra 13, right? And we read how we're gonna destroy these people and turn them into dust, right? And so it should be a great shaking in the land of Israel, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the field and the creeping thing that creep upon the earth and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. And I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, said said God, and every man sword shall fall against his brother. Right? So God is going to destroy these people. Right? And it says, "And I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood, and I will rain upon him, rain upon him and upon his bands, upon many people that are with him, and overflowing rain and great hailstones and fire and brimstone. Thus I will magnify myself, sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am Yahweh." Right? So God has said, like, dude, I'm waiting for y'all to try it. And when y'all do come, I'm gonna destroy y'all utterly. Right? With all types of tricks I got up my sleeve. Because it's one part where God said He's not gonna meet them like a man, meaning He's not gonna come and people say, "Yeah, fight me like a man." God said, "I'm not coming to fight you like a man. I'm bringing everything I got for you people." Right? Let's get this last part. And it says, this is at Ezekiel 39. "Therefore, son of man, prophesy against God and say, Thus said Yahweh God, Because I am against thee, O God, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, I will turn thee back and leave but a sixth part of thee, and I will cause thee to come up from the north parts, and I will bring thee upon the mountains of Israel. Right? And then when you look into that sixth part, um, Russia make up 16% of the world's landmass. That's how big it is, right? Then it says, and I will smite thy bow out of thy left hand, and I will cause the arrows to fall out of thy right hand. Meaning their weapon technology is gonna fail them in that day. They're gonna be thinking, they're gonna be pushing the buttons. They're gonna hear a click sound, but ain't nothing coming out. It's just gonna be their ass getting whooped, like we read in Second Ezra 13, right? And it says, "And thou shalt fall upon the mountains of Israel, and thou and all thy bands, meaning the army, and the people that is with thee, I will give thee unto the ravenous, uh, uh, ravenous birds of every sort, and to the beasts of the field to devour. And thou shalt fall upon the open field, for I have spoken it, said Yahweh power. I will give, I will send a fire on Magog and among them that dwell carelessly in the house, and they shall know that I am the Lord." Right. So, like I said, God's going to destroy these places. Then it says, "I will make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not let them pollute my holy name anymore. And the heathen shall know that uh, I am the Lord, the Holy One of Israel." Right. And it says, "Behold, it come to pass." Hold on, let's jump to 21 real quick. Then it says, "I will set my glory among the heathens, and then all the heathens shall see my judgment, and they have executed in my hand that I have laid upon them." Right. So that's what's going to happen. The heathens is going to see the judgment of God, and how they going to see it when God lay His vengeance upon them. Right. So let's get it. Second Ezra 15 and 11, real quick. So Second Ezra 15 and 11 says, "I will bring them with a mighty hand and stretch out an arm and smite Egypt with plague before I would destroy all the lands thereof." Right? So that's what happens, in America being that modern Egypt, it's gonna destroy this place, right? Then let's get let's keep reading back over here. So Ezekiel 39 and 22. "So the house of Israel shall know that I am the Lord and their God that day forward, and the heathen shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity, but their trespasses against me, uh, because of their trespasses against me, therefore I hid my face upon them and gave them to the land of their enemies. So fell they by the sword." So God said, "Look, then y'all gonna know who is the real Israelites. That the real Israelites went into captivity to their enemies, and He allowed these different nations to do what they did to us because we didn't keep the law, statutes, and commandments. But now that we're coming back to the law, statutes, and commandments, He's raising us up, and he's judging this place as we speak." Right? When we turn on the news, that's what we see. We see judgment happening to this place, all because we're coming back to our true identity and keeping the faith in the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh. Right? So this is Psalms 79 and 10. "Therefore shall the heathen say, Where is their God? Let him be known among the heathens in our sight by revenging the blood of thy servants which is shed." So the heathens is thinking to themselves like, these niggas, these specks, they ain't got nobody to protect them. They go to this church and all that stuff. Ain't nothing happening. So so they're gonna say boastfully. It says, "For therefore should the heathen say, where's their God? Let him be known among the heathen in the sight of in the sight by revenging the blood of thy servants which is shed." So that's what a lot of people say, especially we tell these people that we the Israelites. We tell people that we're God's people. And then they like, well, you don't seem like God's people. Look what you going through. Look what happens. Blah blah blah. So they mock us. But we see right here that God said that He's gonna let it be known that it says that all the heathen shall see my judgment, and uh, execute uh, I have executed in my hand that I have laid upon them. Right. So that's what's gonna happen when God destroys these people. They all gonna know what's going on with it. Right. Let's jump down to 40. It says, 29. Uh, Ezekiel 39 and 29. Neither will I hide my face any more from them, for I have poured out my spirit upon the house of Israel, said Yahweh. That's what's going to happen. He's going to pour out his spirit for us, right? Let's get back over here real quick. Then let's just jump back up to Ezekiel 39 and 8. It says, "Behold, it is come that it is done, said the Lord God. This is the day thereof I have spoken. And they that dwell in the cities of Israel shall go forth and shall set a fire and burn the weapons, bow, shields, and bucklers, and bows, and arrows, and and head shaves, and hand shaves, and the spears, and they shall burn them with fire 7 years, so that they shall take no wood out of the field, neither cut out any of the forest, for they shall burn the weapons with fire, and they shall spoil those that spoiled them, and rob those that robbed them, said Yahweh." So it's called revenge. So when it's all said and done and dust settled, we're gonna destroy them, destroy all their weapons. They're not gonna be able to raise war against us, and we're gonna rob them that robbed us, right? And we know the whole world robbed us. That's why we're in the status that we at now, right? Then it says, "And it shall come to pass in that day that I will give thee unto Gog a place there of graves in Israel, in a valley of the passengers on the east of the sea, and that it shall stop the noise of the passengers, and there uh, shall there be buried Gog and all his multitude, and they shall call it the valley of Haman God," right? So God said, when it's all said and done, He's gonna have a nice little burial plot for these people that come against us, and they're gonna lie there, right? Let's get this one last verse, then we out of here, right? So this is Isaiah 2:2. So this is how we know that those people over there is not who they say they are, right? That they are not who they say they are, and we are who we thought we were. Then it says, "The word of Isaiah, the son of Amoz, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days," right? Because we're in the last days. We've been reading about the last days for the last hour or so. It says, "That mountain of the Lord, the house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills." Talking about we're going to be the top hegemony, like you read about in Deuteronomy 28, verse 1, all the way down to 14, right? Then it says, "Exalted above the hills, and all the nations shall flow into it. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go down to the mountains of the Lord, to the house of God of Jacob, and he shall teach us his ways, and we will walk in the path. Out of Zion shall go forth the law." So we're going to have to teach these people, because out of Zion, out of Israel, is going to go forth the law. We're going to bring the law to the world, right? And they're going to have to get in order. Then it says, in the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into prune hooks. And the nations shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. Like we just read over here in Ezekiel 39, that we're gonna burn all their weapons, right? And we see here that they should not learn war anymore. The house of Jacob, and let us walk in the light of the Lord. So it's going to be a place of peace, right? When we're back in rulership, because there's not going to be any more war going on, right? We're going to have to, you know, beat these people into submission to get it. But it ain't going to be like that, right? So that's how we know that those people over there is not who they say they are. Because they've been over there for like damn near, let me see what, about damn near 60, 70 years, right? And we haven't seen none of that happen. If anything, the world had got worse since they've been over there, right? But the Bible tells you that when we're back home, everything is going to get back to peace again. Everybody's going to be, you know, going to be a utopia how it's supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? For us Israelites, you know. So like I said, that's the backdrop of this whole thing. That's the end all be all for this whole thing, right? So like I said, it's gonna be peace on earth when the real Israelites are back in the land. That's why what we read in Ezekiel 38, the Arab countries is gonna be asking uh, Russia and those other nations, like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you going to mess with those people when they're back in their land? You know what I'm saying? Like just leave them alone because God brought them back to where they're supposed to be at. So leave them alone. We're not talking about the Bedford Declaration 1948 bullshit. We ain't talking about that. Because, like I said, those people are not who they say they are. Because, like we just read, when the real people are in the land, peace will be on earth. And and as we know, since they've been there, things have got worse. So they are not who they say they are, right? So, like I said, so when we have the understanding, um, and we understand prophecy, we know that we are the people of the book. A lot of stuff got to happen, you know, to get to that point. We already read like one of the things that's on the table, which is the mark of the beast. What I'm saying, that's around the corner because we see what they're how they're propagating the Neuralink. You know, we went over how like Elon Musk only really wanted 11 test subjects, but like 2,000 showed up for it. So we see that a lot of people's going to be deceived in taking the RFID chip and all that stuff, right? So we see it all coming, right? We know what's happening. So we just got to keep the faith, keep the commandments, come back to our nationality, believe as believing Israelites, and that way we can get up out of this thing. Then we can, you know, bring that peace on earth that everybody wants, right? Because the Bible tells you that nature wants us back. You know what I'm saying? Like the animals want us there, right? And we know the animals want us there. Since this devil took over, this man done managed to extinct like 90, what they say, like 98% of the animals on earth, right? I mean, polluted everything, right? So even the animals want us back in the land, and the Bible tells you that nature wants us there, right? That's how things get back set in order. Like if you're a sports fan and like let's say like the superstar or somebody's injured, like an important part of that team is that person is injured, right? So that got everybody playing out of their position. But then when that person comes back, order is set back. Everybody is back in their natural position. So that's how it's going to be when we get back into our land. Everything's going to be set back in the natural position how God wanted it to be. So with that, I hope that was edifying. Hope that got a little understanding of what's going on. And so we're gonna say shalom, peace, and all that cool stuff.